Bonjour French 1. This is your study guide for test over the section 5.1 video. It'll walk you through all of the answers to the study guide and help get you ready for your test over section 5.1. For the first section of the test, you will be expected to match a French word or phrase for an activity, such as these right here, with a French word or phrase for an item that is typically associated with the activity, found there towards the bottom of our list. Again, it's a matching section, so you won't have to be able to spell these out, but everything, including the activities and the items, will be in French, so it's important to be able to recognize these phrases and words in French, including to play tennis, which is jouer au tennis, to play hockey, which is jouer au hockey, to play music, which is jouer de la musique, to do photography, which is faire de la photo, to do skateboarding, which is faire du skate, to make videos, which is faire de la vidéo amateur, a video camera, which is un caméscope, a helmet, which is un casque, drums, which is la batterie, guitar, which is la guitare, digital camera, which is un appareil photo numérique, and a racket, which is une raquette. For the second section of your test, you're going to read 5 French sentences, and you're going to have to decide whether the sentence is logical, which means it's normal, it's typical. They'll say something like, my brother likes to ski in the winter. That would be normal or logical. Or if the sentence is illogical, if it says something like, my brother likes to ski in August, when clearly there is no snow. Keep in mind that if in order to do that, you'll have to be able to read and understand a French sentence that includes some of the vocabulary from this section. This list here is a lot of the words that you'll see in this section. It's just not put in sentence format yet. So if you're familiar with these words, you'll know what they mean on the test when they're in a sentence, and you'll be able to say whether the sentence is logical or illogical. The words include mon frère, which is my brother, aime, which is like or likes, la musique, which is music, en hiver, which is in the winter, adorer, which is to love, faire du patin à glace, which is to do ice skating, joue de la guitare, which is to play the guitar, on a besoin de means we need, le ski is skiing or an actual ski itself, like the actual thing you put on your foot, août is August, printemps is springtime, un mois is a month, and c'est is the word for it is or it's. For the third section of your test, they're going to provide you with a sentence structure that looks like this right here in the middle of the screen. I know it's not on your study guide, that's why I'm pointing it out to you now. Using that sentence structure, you're going to be given 4 pictures of activities, and you're going to have to complete the sentence with the activity in French and then an appropriate season or month during which you can do that activity. Keep in mind, when you're talking about seasons and months, don't get silly and say, well, technically you can ski in July in Alaska. We're talking about St. Louis weather, where it's warm in the summer and it's cold in the winter. Keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that there is no word bank here. There's nothing to help you spell these things out. They do give you this sentence structure, but it does have blanks for the activity and for the season or the month, and it's up to you to come up with the words for those activities or seasons or months. The good news is that the 4 questions that are on your test are among these 6. So if you know these 6, you're guaranteed to know the 4 that are on the test. So whenever they ask me to write, if they were to give me a picture of somebody skiing and have me complete a sentence structure that looks like this for skiing, I would say je fais, which is already there. I would fill in the du ski, and then for the winter, or for the season, I would say in the winter, which is en hiver. So you can see how this structure here, where the underlines are, is how it matches up with this structure on the test. And all I had to fill in was the du ski part and the hiver part, the wintertime part. Now, I could have easily named a month instead. It's kind of up to you or what the test says as to whether you have to name a season or a month. So if you wrote something like en décembre, in December, or something along those lines, that is not a problem. So for surfing, they already provided me the je fais. I filled in the du surf, and I used en juin, which is in June. But again, you could have said en été if you wanted to say in the summer. You could have said something along the lines of en juillet, which is in July. All of those are valid answers and would work for that sentence. For swimming, I rearranged the sentence a little bit. Je nage is I swim, and en été is in the summer. For track, je fais de l'athlétisme, one of the hardest things to spell, and I put en automne, although truthfully track you could do anything from about the month of March to about the month of October, and anywhere from spring into autumn would be fine. For biking, je fais du vélo. Du vélo is biking. I used en septembre in September just because it's one of the easier months to spell. But again, you could have pretty much done anything from the season of spring through fall and you would have been fine. And then finally on the back of your paper for playing tennis, je joue au tennis is to say I play tennis. And then I put au printemps, which is in the springtime. But just like track and just like biking, you could pretty much do that any time of the year from about March to about October. For Part D, you will be given a word bank, and the word bank will be filled with French question words. The key to doing well on this section, besides, of course, being able to kind of sort out what these questions mean, is to actually know what the question words mean. A lot of people hear that there's a word bank, and then they kind of dismiss the whole idea of memorizing the question words. But you'll notice that these question words really don't look anything like the English words. So as you're studying for this test, one of the best things you can do for yourself is know which one of these words is who, which one of these words is where, which one of these words is why. Because when you get to your test, then you'll be able to use the word bank to its fullest extent. If you don't know what the words even mean, the word bank doesn't help you very much. The other thing I want to point out is that these are all formatted in the same way as your test. There are 5 of these questions on your test instead of 6, but they're all kind of formatted in this way where they give you a question, and then the second question that they give you is them kind of asking you about the answer. So like, for example, on number 1, they say something about biking with you, and then they say Sophie, and this Sophie part is the thing that clues you in on the answer. It's a person's name, right? So if they say something about biking with you and then they say Sophie, they're probably looking for who bikes with you. Is it Sophie? So be careful. We've had a lot of these kinds of activities where I tell you to look at the answer in order to figure out the question word. The answers here are actually listed as questions after the original question. Like they ask the question and then they go ahead and have themselves question themselves by asking themselves the answer. So for number 1, they want who does biking with you. Is it Sophie? The word for who in French is qui. For number 2, this says you like to go, and then they say the mall. Au centre commercial is the mall. So since the answer is the mall, then the question must be where do you like to go? Where in French is où est-ce que tu aimes aller? On this one, they say something about you not playing basketball, and then they say tu n'aimes pas ça, which is you don't like it. So if you don't like it and they're asking something about you not playing basketball, they're probably asking why don't you play basketball? You don't like it. Why in French is pourquoi. This next one is usually one that catches people off guard on the test. It's very similar to one on the test because what happens is they know that you're asking something about skateboarding, but then they forget what this word means. Soir means at night, and so ce soir is like tonight, this night. So whenever they say something like a time of day or a day of the week, like night is a time of day, they're asking a when question. What they're asking here is when are you skateboarding tonight? So when in French is quand. For number 5, you should recognize these ça va words from the beginning of the year. It's saying something about it's going, and then they say bien, which is well. They're wanting to know how is it going. How in French is comment. And then finally, I know this last one does not have an answer. This is that standard for question for what do you do. Remember for the word what, they'll put QU apostrophe in front of est-ce que, and you end up with that complete word qu'est-ce que. This one's actually asking what does she do for fun in the summer, and that's just one of those standard phrases that we learned in this section that you really need to kind of recognize that if they're saying something about her doing for fun in the summer, they're not going to say who is she doing for fun in the summer. That's all kinds of wrong. They're not going to say where is she doing for fun in the summer. That doesn't make any sense at all. When is she doing doesn't make sense. The only one that makes sense is what is she doing for fun in the summer. The final section of the test looks exactly like this. They will ask you to create 5 sentences using a month or a season from the right-hand column, a subject from the middle column. Then you have to supply the form of the word faire. That's what they're telling you about right here in the directions. And then you have to put the do's or the de las before these activities. Now, how you choose to match them up as far as what season and what person and what activity is totally up to you. The only thing you have to be careful of is that you use in the summer with surfing. Everything else you can kind of mix and match because they have fall and they have September, and you can pretty much jog or do biking or track in all of those months and seasons except for summer and surfing. Now, who you choose to say, whether you choose to say I surf in the summer or my family and I surf in the summer, that's totally up to you. But the bottom line is everything else you can pretty much mix and match as long as you use each thing once. So when you're looking at my sentences, you definitely could have done things differently than I did. The key to notice is whatever subject I used, make sure that you also use the same form of faire because that's the correct form of faire. And whatever activity you connected to it, make sure that you put the right du or de la or whatever in front of it. So I chose to match it up this way. I used en automne, which is in the fall right here. Moi, je, well, me, I, and then because I used I, the je form of faire is fait, and then I chose to skip down to jogging, so I put du jogging, because that's the right word that goes with jogging since it's masculine. Then I moved down to en mars et en avril, which is in March and in April. I went ahead and going across to ma famille et moi, nous, my family and me. Nous means I have to use the nous form of faire, which is faisons. And then I skip down to l'athlétisme, which has a de L apostrophe in front of it. Altogether, you get en mars et en avril, ma famille et moi, nous faisons de l'athlétisme, which means in March and April, me and my family, we do track. Then I skipped down to en été. I went ahead and just used it with le professeur. Remember, professeur is one boy, so I needed the il form of faire, so that's fait. And then because I used summertime, the only thing that kind of limits you is this summertime surfing combination. Don't forget, when you use surf, you have to say du surf. So en été, le professeur fait du surf. Then I went down to en septembre. I went ahead and went straight across and used it with les élèves. Les élèves are students. Students are like eels and L's, it's they. So I needed the eels and L's form of faire, which is font. And then I went ahead and used the fact that the students do biking in September. Biking has to have a du before the vélo. Finally, when I got down to au printemps, which is in the springtime, and I used vous, technically the vous form of faire is fête, and they tell you in the directions to use faire. My only issue is if you're using it with soccer, we usually talk about jouer au football, to play soccer. Because your test tells you to use faire, if you write it like this and say fête du football, because soccer is masculine, you have to use du, this would totally be okay. Or if you want to switch back, because we always learned it with jouer, and say vous jouez au football, that would be fine with me as well. Either way, do make sure that you have the vous form of faire or jouer, and this is the only one where you could switch to jouer. All of the other ones always use faire all of the time, no exceptions at all. The last thing I want to point out about this section is I want to point out that there are several months and seasons and several activities listed here. If you were to need some help on part C, sorry to skip back on you, this part where you had to provide the activity and the month or the season in that provided sentence structure, you could actually use this part of your test to help you with that and think about it ahead of time. You already know that this is the exact section from your test, so you could be already thinking ahead about which months and seasons you might be able to copy from this section so that you know that your spelling is on point in part C. Just a suggestion, that legal cheating thing I've told you about.